Hey guys, it's Melissa here from melissaoatman.com. Welcome to another episode of Awaken Your Inner Awesomeness. I'm so excited you're here with us today because we have a very special guest. Today we have with us Ms. Ronnie Ann Ryan. She hosts the podcast Love and Magic. She also is on the show Past Life Travelogue. She's written many books, including the book Is He the One? She uses past lives and the Akashic records to help her clients in so many different ways, from attracting love to just helping them live a better life. And today we're going to talk about past lives and the Akashic record and really dive into what it is that Ronnie does. So I'm so excited that she's here with us today. Thank you, Ronnie, so much for being here today.
Oh, Melissa, I'm very excited to have a chat with you.
Yes, I'm so excited too because I'm like a geek when it comes to all things past lives. It's so fascinating to me when
Me
you hear
too.
children, talk about, oh, I remember when I was your mom, or I remember being this person. It's like, okay, children don't lie and make up stories. There's got to be some truth to this. And there's been so much research done lately on this topic. So I cannot wait to pick your brain and find out how you're using this to help people. But before you start with that, just tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into this field of working with past lives and working with the Akashic records?
Okay. So I really, really wanted to open up my intuitive gifts. So I took a bunch of classes a very long time ago. And one of them was a past life class that you could re-up by the quarter. And so there were 6 women and a teacher, and we all just stayed for a whole year. And so every week, almost every week, maybe not Christmas and New Year's or Thanksgiving, but almost every week we got together and we would focus on one person's question. So somebody was having an issue or they were curious about something. So then we would all focus on the one person and their life and their question. Now, why that was so good was because we all got a lot of confirmation. So because so many of us got amazingly similar stuff, we would tune in, meditate, and then we would all share what we received, images, or what we heard, or what we felt, however it came through. And it was astonishing, really. And eventually you all really get into sync with each other when you do this kind of group work. Group work is so powerful. Like if you're learning, that is one of the best ways. Even if you just get together with another friend and do it, it really makes a difference. So anyway, after about a year, it finally came to me that looking backwards is the same as looking forwards. It's actually the exact same skill. So I don't really do any fortune telling, future prediction kind of stuff, but I do a lot of present day and very current energy, what's happening right now, what's your highest path, that kind of thing. So when I work with people now, sometimes I go in the records and I do past life work, but not everybody wants that. And sometimes they want to know things intuitively, and we end up having to go in the records to go see what's going on, because a lot of times things run deeper than just this one life. So that's really how it started. And then it was really funny. I had a friend and she and I wanted to start working at psychic fairs, and this guy wanted to test us and he was giving us a hard time. And so my friend Lisa was like, oh, please, we don't need him. We'll just do our own. And I have to tell you, she was amazing at creating these massive psychic fairs where hundreds of people would come on a Friday night. I mean, she blew what he was doing away. It was really funny. So anyway, I only did past life readings, so I wasn't that busy. And one night she came to me and she goes, hey, 2 psychics aren't coming tonight. And I can tell it's going to be a really great crowd. It's going to be huge. So you have to be a psychic tonight. I'm like, get out of here. I am not a psychic. She goes, yeah, but you have to be, because I'm like, no. She's like, yes, no, yes, no. The only answer was yes. I need it. Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I did 22 out of 24 time spots, readings, 15 minutes apart, And so I got to tell you, it was quite an experience because there was no time to doubt.
Yeah,
There was no
gotta fire away.
There was no time to mess around and question yourself and worry if what you're saying is accurate. that would have been a huge luxury. Like there wasn't time to pee, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I just had to do it. And so that's really I wouldn't consider that as I wouldn't recommend that for anybody, but that was certainly a way to jump into the frying pan and get over my concern about doing psychic readings for people and stuff. So that's a little story on how I got started.
That is too funny. Yeah, you don't, I mean, it's uncomfortable when you get pushed into an area that you're not really that familiar with, and that those doubts do come up. I mean, I remember first starting to practice and thinking, is this really working? Is this doing anything? And then having people say, "Oh my gosh, that was spot on." So, yeah, you do tend to doubt yourself at first. Too funny.
Yeah,
So,
but that just gets in the way, right?
yeah,
Just
absolutely. Absolutely. So now tell us more about how you're using past lives with your clients. Like, what kinds of things are people learning about from going back and looking at their past lives?
uh, there are all right. So there are so many different things that could happen. Sometimes people want what I call the past life travelogue, and they're just curious about who they've been and where they've been. And I prefer reading when somebody has a specific question they want me to focus on. But sometimes people want the travelogue, so that's what I do. And so we bounce through all these different lives. I don't tell any life from beginning to end, even when they have a specific issue, because I'm extremely focused on what will help with a specific issue. And you don't need to know the birth and the death to, unless the death is involved or the birth is involved in the issue, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't do from birth to death. I just go for the main lesson of whatever's going on that, you know, connects to today. But anyway, I like here, I'll give you some examples. I did one woman, she had, I think she had a Pakistani background, but she was from the United States. And I saw this, I saw, you know, you can't judge. So I'm like, I think you know, no, I didn't say that. You were a tiger tamer trainer. Like you worked with tigers, you and your father, and you worked at the palace, and this was part of the entertainment, and they you were like on staff taming the tigers and training them and having them do tricks or whatever. And I felt like she was part of the original um, Romani, which, you know, is, you're not supposed to say gypsy anymore. So
Yeah.
the Romani, because they said they came from that area, you know, Indian, whatever. And I think she was an Indian. Anyway, so I'm telling her this, and I feel like, oh my gosh, this is the most cockamamie thing. I can't believe I'm saying this. And she goes, you know, so whenever anyone ever asks me, what animal would you be? I always pick tiger. So, you know, that was a great example. I mean, that's not some big learning, but that was a great example of how you certainly can't judge whatever you get. You just got to say it. So, but the most amazing story I have from learning lessons from past lives was a woman sat down, you know, this was countless years ago at one of those psychic fairs, and she was young and she was Japanese because I could tell from her name. And she wanted to know about her most recent incarnation and what she had been. I'm like, okay. So I go back and look, and I see that she was at Pearl Harbor. She was a man, and she was in the US Navy, and she died on December 7th when they bombed Pearl Harbor. And I thought, what an amazing soul to come back as a woman in Japan to see, well, how do they live and what was this about, and to learn about the culture. And, you know, that's how I took it. And so, you know, I told her what had happened. And so she said, well, you know, I'm really terrified of drowning. I'm like, yeah, you drowned at Pearl Harbor, you know? She goes,
Yeah.
I can't stand fireworks, and I hate loud booming noises, and when it freaks me out, I'm like, yeah, you died in Pearl Harbor. So she probably needed some healing to go along with that, which you couldn't do in 15 minutes. But
Right.
that was really one of the most amazing stories. But you never know. Like recently, a woman wanted to know why she was fighting so much with her husband. And the first life I saw was that she and her husband were brothers, and they were Texas oil people. And her husband, was an older brother, and he was in charge, and she didn't like that as a he, as a brother. And they fought. They were merciless, trying to one up each other with power. But going back even further, they'd been in the Civil War on opposite sides
Oh, wow.
of the war. Yeah. So I said to her, you may be fighting a lot with your husband, but it's way better than being on opposite sides of the Civil War. I should have asked her if like one of them was a Democrat and one is a Republican. That would have been interesting, right? But so anyway, she was really surprised to hear that. I think it gave her some, frame of reference or whatever to understand like what is going on and why is it like this. And I did give her some other advice about how to calm some of the fighting down, but you just don't know what you're going to find. It's so interesting. I agree with you. I'm fascinated by it.
So I have a question for you because I do past life regression too, but I was trained, it sounds like, in a completely different way, where I take the clients and they are just under hypnosis, and then they are the ones who see the past life. And we do from the beginning to the end.
Sure.
So what is your methodology? How do you see their past lives? Are you using the Akashic records, or how are you seeing into their past lives? Because I'm very fascinated by this. And believe me, I think there's always more than one way to do
Sure.
anything. So I'm just curious as to how you work whenever you work with a client.
So we learned way back in 1990, there were no books on the Akashic records except for what Edgar Cayce wrote. There was no Linda Howe or Lisa Barnett or any of these people teaching certified programs and all that. None of it existed. So we just learned to use our intuition. And over time, as I started reading some Akashic record books, I'm like, I guess I've been dealing in the Akashic records and not knowing it. So everybody's like all freaked out, but you don't say the prayer and you don't do this and you don't close the records. You don't have my birthday. And I'm like, you don't really need it. I mean, you can use it.
Yeah.
And it's not bad, but I don't need it. It's not how I learned. I just learned to access. And that was it. Because that's what we had. We didn't make a whole major process out of it. Somebody else explained, and I don't know if this is true, that a lot of the original, more recent Akashic record stuff from like the last 20 years came out of a group of people who were very religious. So they felt that prayers were a very necessary part of honoring God and all this kind of stuff, which I'm not a religious person. I'm very spiritual. Yeah. I believe in God, but I don't believe in the dogma. So, but that's just me. Everybody has a different thing, and I understand that. So I just go and I look and I ask, and that's it. And sometimes I know people are going to get upset with that. So I did write a little prayer so I could say it and feel authentic and have people feel safe or whatever. But one woman said to me, well, is this even going to be accurate because you don't have my birthday? I'm like, I know, I don't need your birthday. So,
yeah,
it's
interesting. And I'm a big believer that there are no rules that you have to necessarily follow as far as, oh, I have to set up this and I have to do it that way and I have to do it this way, because there's so many different methodologies out there. And I think you have to do what works for you and,
right.
Feels comfortable for you to be able to do the work. And obviously it sounds like you're able to still see everything. So that's the main thing, right? And the important thing.
Right. Well, there could be like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Terry Uktana, but she claims that she can actually read the book. Like she'll get the book out of the library and read your book for you. I can tell you right now, I don't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's impressive as all hell, if you ask me. I have seen some books, I will tell you that, but I can't tell you that's how I get the information. So some people are super keyed in, but how I do it is I'm going to give you the broad brush details of a situation and I see it for you. I don't regress. I don't do any regression. I've had a few regressions, but every time I've gone to see my own past lives, I almost never do the whole birth to death thing. I just go in for What's the thing I need to know right now? But you know what? That's so much like my personality. 'Cause
Just get to
I want to go,
the
I just want to go from A to B in the
point.
most direct route possible.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not, I don't, yeah. So, but that doesn't mean any other way isn't good or isn't accurate or isn't, just like you said, everybody has their way. So I'm really using my intuition.
how long does it take you when you're working with a client? I guess it must not take super long because you were talking about doing this for 15 minutes, like in 15-minute increments at the psychic show to get to the information that you need. So does it just come to you like pops into, and I know with myself, the more I practice, the faster it got and the more that came in. And is that, do you find the
Sure.
same way?
That's absolutely how it works. It's like, I was talking to a woman recently and I wanted to take her class, but I didn't want to pay the whole fee. It was a lot of money. And so we ended up bartering. She said, how about this? You can do sessions for my other people in the class and I'll use that as a discount because you'll be working for me. I'm like, awesome. She
Yeah.
goes, well, how long a session do you need? I'm like, let's just do 15 minutes. She goes, how can you do anything in 15 minutes? I'm like, the truth for me is a lot of times all you need is 15 minutes and people can make it take an hour, but they're probably not saying that much more.
Yeah.
you know, so which is kind of ridiculous for me to say that, but I had this, I had one of those Akashic records reading with the people who do the pendulum because I was really curious, like what's it about and how. And so it took her an hour to tell me, but she drank a lot of water and had dead space. There was quiet time. I'm like, what's with this? Like, really, she it could have taken 20 minutes. And it wasn't that it wasn't interesting or whatever, but I was like, can we, like, let's get on with it. What do you got? So I don't know. It's just who I am. I just get right to the point. So yes, I can get it in fast, but I will tell you, it always helps to have a specific question. That helps me tremendously because then that gives me a focus. With the past life travel log, I can do that too, but sometimes that's a little harder.
Yeah, I would imagine it would be because, you have such a broad range of areas to go. And if you know the person has, oh, I've always had a, bad relationship with my mom, where does that stem from? If you know exactly what you're looking for, it would be
Right.
like going in your closet, right? Like,
Yeah.
I just need a shirt. But if you go in there and go, I need a pink shirt because we have to wear pink today, that's a lot easier to find it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And there'll be energy around whatever that issue is. And one of the things that's happened since I've taken more of took some Akashic classes and I've been doing this work more. What's happened is I've been able to go back to try to find the root cause, which I never used to do. I would just tell people what I got. But now when I do it, I'm like, all right, I see that you're in, oil person and you're fighting with your brother. Oh, and then I see the root causes. And there was probably something before the Civil War too for that woman. But it's a lot of times I ask for the root cause so we can get to the bottom of whatever's going on. And then when I do the past life work and I find something, then I offer energetic healing to go with it so that we can release whatever that was.
Yeah, yeah. That's the part about doing it that I love the most is that we do the healing work on the end to say, okay,
Yes.
we don't just go back there just to see, like we're actually using this as a healing opportunity.
Yep.
When you're doing your work, so have you noticed that people tend to travel in the same soul families and that, because we talk on my show a lot about why are we here? What are we doing? What is the purpose of all of this? And through doing my own research, I've always felt like we come here to live out certain dynamics within our family relationships, friend relationships, whatever, to learn certain things to spiritually elevate and grow. So, what have you learned along the way in doing this work?
Well, I definitely have. I've done some work where I've gone to look to see if we've had past lives together. Like my friend Carrie, we do that work together, and um, we've gone and looked at things together, see where we're here together, whatever. But I've also done some of my own work and stumbled over my friends. So I had this past life in Italy in the 1400s where we were doing some kind of very formal, high level magic with couples. We were all very wealthy, and the we were in the process, we were in a circle, we were doing some magic thing, and somebody had ratted us out, and the guards came in and they chopped everybody's head off. So that was fun. But I recognized two girlfriends from today, and my brother was my husband.
Wow.
So I had no idea that was going to happen, but I do anyway. I definitely recognize people. And I remember the very first past life I saw was this friend of mine. I had a really close friend in 7th grade and 8th grade. And then in 9th grade, we both liked the same boy. And she ended up dating him. And I was so devastated because he said he would never choose between us, blah, blah. You can just imagine what it's like to be 14. So that was a big event in my life. That was really horrifying. And so it was the first past life I saw. We were Native Americans, and she and I were men, and he was a woman. And she came in and stabbed me in the heart so she could have my wife.
Oh, wow.
And I wasn't going to look to see where she was or what happened. And it wasn't anything like that. I don't even remember why I went to look, but that's the first thing I saw. So yeah, you recognize people, you just know who they are.
Yeah, I find that very interesting because when I've had my own past life regressions, I've seen people from this lifetime that were also family in previous. And I think that's interesting.
The craziest story I've heard though is there's a fire chief out of Westport, Connecticut, who wrote a book that I can't remember the name. And I only read 25% of it because it was all about the Civil War. But I bring it up because that was his past life that he had seen, the Civil War. And he found a picture of the general that he was from the South. And he looks exactly the same. Like, I don't even understand why that's happening or how that's possible. I'm completely baffled because that's not what you usually hear. I mean, I'm very short. I'm kind of chubby and I have long dark hair, but I've been tall and skinny and blonde and Asian, and I've been everything, black and Indian and whatever, Native American. But he looks exactly the same. He put a picture of himself as the general, and he had many sources who said he was there. He went and traced the steps of the battles and could feel it. So, he feels like that was really who he was. And he put the picture side by side in his book. I was like, whoa.
That is crazy. That is crazy. Now, have you come across this? Because I've heard of this before, read about it, where people will have birthmarks or scars
Yes,
on their
he
body,
did.
and when they see a past life, they're like, "Oh, I was stabbed there," or "This happened there," and so they have that scar with them.
And he did. That was another thing. He had all these marks on his body from the Civil War. I
Wow.
don't have any that I know of, but
Yeah.
yeah, he sure did.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah,
That's so
it's amazing.
fascinating. Yeah, it really is. That's so fascinating. So, are you doing work with people now where you're using the Akashic records? Because I know you're doing past lives with people. Are you doing any work specifically with that area now that you work
Well,
with people
to,
individually?
to me, what I realized over time, and I would say in the last 3 years, was I figured out that I've been working with the Akashic records all along. But I didn't know that because
You didn't do the whole let's
I,
pull out the book and the things that most, because I've dabbled in, looking at Akashic record classes, and most of them will start off by having you imagine going into the library and picking the book. And I guess for, I think I'm more like you. I just want to get to the point.
well, I will tell you, I have done it that way too. And it can be very interesting. And sometimes, I'm still accessing the records, whether I see the book or not. I'm not reading the records like Terry Utana does, but I'm still accessing the information. But there's something really fun and magical about seeing a library and then opening the door and then going into on the steps. And then I have people meet their guide, and the guide will take them to their book because that's a big library, you know.
Yeah.
So there is something magical. And if people are new at it, sometimes it's nice to have the structure and the guided meditation to help you connect and allow things to come into your mind and that kind of thing. So it can be very helpful, but that doesn't mean you need it.
Yes.
But I wanted to try it to see what everyone was talking about and experiencing and what kind of what is it like. So I took something by Lisa Barnett. I read a bunch of books. I read a Linda Howe book, and I took a class from Terry Uktana, and they were all extremely different.
Yeah, I
And
think
then there
that
was,
everybody has their own different methodology, really.
yeah. So I think I am working with the records. My intention is to work with the records, and I think that's, I mean, where else would I be getting it from?
Right.
That's how I kind of figure, you know?
Yeah. That is so awesome. And now you have a podcast called Love and Magic Podcast, but then you also have a show, Past Life Travelogue, and you're
It's
talking
actually
about,
called Breathe. Oh, sorry. It's
oh,
actually called Breathe, Love, and Magic.
oh, okay. Breathe, Love, and Magic. And so tell us
Yeah.
about that podcast and then your other show as well, because you mentioned the travelogue being people who just kind of want to see the whole journey of their past lives instead of going to a specific place. So is that what that show is all about? What do you talk about
Well,
on that show?
what happens is a lot of the shows are me doing readings for people, not live. It's all pre-recorded, but I'm doing readings for people. And then sometimes I've done book reviews about my favorite past life books, or I've talked about some of my own experiences. I've done a short meditation. So the past life travelogue program is really a mixture of stuff, but it's all fat, you know, just focused on past lives. And that's on, I can't even remember it's a radio station. It'll be in the show notes, right? It's like
Yes,
Women
exactly.
360 or something. But and then the other one, Breathe, Love, and Magic, is about intuition. I interview a lot of people too. I talk to different kinds of healers and people who have all kinds of methods to live a better life, you know, to live your best life. That's basically the idea. I like to talk to people who have discovered things that you could do too, or talk about synchronicities or shamanism, you know, all the fun spiritual kinds of methods and topics. So
Yeah,
that's what that's about. It's fun.
I love that because we do that a lot here too. We love to talk about those different topics. So it's super, super fun. And this has been such a fun conversation today too. Are you currently offering sessions with people that to allow them to look into their past lives?
Oh, for sure. I still offer that. You can find it on my website. When you go to my website, which is nevertoolate.biz, there's a get a reading button. That's where you go. It'll tell you all about the Akashic Records readings. And I'm doing a new thing too. I've decided to take my 30 years as an entrepreneur, because I've been in brand marketing and marketing consulting and copywriting. And then my 30 years of all of my, it's actually more, but don't tell anyone, my spiritual, all of my spiritual escapades and all the things that I've learned or whatever. And I'm putting them together to be a business intuitive. So I want to, and I am working with women who are probably spiritually minded entrepreneurs who, you know, sometimes you just can't decide, or you don't know which way to go, and you not sure if your business needs to pivot, or which is the best person to hire, or if you need to bring on a new product or service, or what kind of program you should run, whatever it is. And clarity is really hard sometimes on your own. So that's where I can come in and help and provide clarity. And for people who want to develop their intuition, I could also help them develop their intuition and gain their own skills so they can trust their gut and their own instincts too, right? So that's another service that I'm doing. And I haven't got the website up yet, but that's also on my site. You'd have to go to intuitive. So it'd be nevertoolate.biz/intuitive. And that's the only way you'd find it. You wouldn't be able to find it any other way yet, but I'm working on it.
Well, awesome, awesome. And I definitely will have that link in the show notes for anyone who's interested in going there. And you've written several books too, that people might be interested in learning more about because you talked about how you manifested your soulmate and you wrote a book called Is He the One? So I know that in the past you've done work with people on that too. So if there's anyone out there listening who is interested in manifesting a soulmate, she's also got some great stuff about that too.
Yeah, I have a page on Amazon if you look for the author page, Ronnie Ann Ryan. And so my first book was Manifesting Mr. Right. And that's the story of how I manifested my husband using the law of attraction and a lot of other methods, techniques, even including acupuncture and all kinds of energy healing. I mean, I didn't leave any stone unturned. So that really is my whole methodology, and it still completely works. So I was a dating coach for 20 years.
You've just
It was
done it all,
fun.
girl.
Yeah. That's what happens when you rack up the years.
Well, I love it and I love all that you're doing. And I want to thank you so much for being here today and sharing your stories because they are fascinating. And if anyone is interested in listening to your podcast, buying a book, or working with you, all of those links will be in the show note. And I highly encourage people to check it out. Thank you again so, so much for being here today. This was so fun.
Melissa, thank you. This was a blast having this conversation with you. And my bet is your work is amazing. So you certainly have a beautiful light.
Oh, thank you. And I want to thank all of you for being here with us today. As always, I super appreciate each and every one of you. If you like this podcast, please subscribe. Please leave a positive review from wherever you're listening. As always, the greatest compliment you can pay me is to share this podcast with anyone you think might benefit. You can join us over on Patreon, where you can see the video of this interview. And if you want to follow me on social media, all of my links are in the show notes. I hope you guys have a beautiful day from wherever you're listening. As always, I'm sending you so much love and light, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.